Well, you may have heard it on my Facebook, but did anybody like on the news hear about that? No. Very rarely does that stuff get out. And so that's just not me. I'm sure that's every chief that happens. And it's incumbent on us to try to get those positives out because quite frankly, it's very difficult to get those out elsewhere. And I'm not, don't get me wrong, if we push them out, we have a great rapport with our media sources. If we push them out, they'll get out there. But they don't seem to get out there with the zest that some other stories do get out there with. We've handled, I made it mandatory for all the officers to take crisis intervention training. That's dealing with the mentally ill. Now I will say this, and it's been my platform. We've got 6 officer-involved shootings this year, all dealing with the mentally ill. And one thing that I will say is the police department cannot be the only resource for individuals that suffer from mental crisis. The onus cannot be on the men and women that wear this uniform. The 40 hours of training that I give them a week, or that I give them, does not make them clinicians. We need more help. We need more help in 3 areas. Number 1, we need more help responding with us if we can in those areas. It's a program called Mobile Response, which we don't have in this county yet, and we can use. Number 2, we need these individuals, when they're admitted for mental health, we need them to get resources and services. And then number 3, as we are on a crusade to house our homeless and our veterans, which I think has to be done, we cannot just house individuals and then walk away. Because if it's predictable, it's preventable. We can't house our homeless who we know is a vast majority suffer from mental illness and then walk away and assume everything's going to be okay and that the police will never have to get called. Because that's not reality. And we need to make sure that when we set these housing systems up, I don't care if you're setting up a tent city or you're doing brick and mortar, there needs to be wraparound 24/7 services for individuals so that the police department cannot be the first line of defense in those type of situations. We brought in body-worn cameras. We did a self-study on ourselves from the University of Texas El Paso to see how we're policing the city. Are we doing it in a fair and just manner? And we looked at ourselves and did that. And there's areas we did well, and there's areas we're going to work on. We have a use of force committee. We do coffee with a cop. We do Team Kids, which is a training program from the kids that we can do, that we have. We have an LGBTQ committee. We have a use of force reporting and transparency. We have a lot of things that we've done, and I'll say this, one thing that you haven't, that often gets lost a little bit. So all these things that we undertook, when we look at the first 6 months of 2017 compared to the first 6 months of 2016 when it comes to community relations, our overall internal affairs complaints in the first 6 months compared to last year's first 6 months are down almost 37%. And our use of force complaints in the first 6 months compared to those 6 months are down almost 77%. So I don't believe it's just one thing. I think it's everything combined. And I think the officers truly have bought into what we're trying to do. And those are very laudable, attained goals. We're not there yet, and we're not perfect. And we are going to have issues. But what I'd like to see is, you know what, the police department isn't there. There's issues out there to resolve. But take a second to step back and applaud the fact that the police department is not in crisis, and that this police department is made up of the most professional individuals that I've ever had the honor of working with. You know, we've been through some rough times here, but we're going to rise again, and we're rising now. We need officers, but we're going to grow right. We've left no stone unturned, and currently we have the biggest academy that we've had since 2007. I'm proud of the work of Lieutenant Heather Randall, who's our commander of our recruiting unit, who's done unbelievable work. Again, it's great to know we're not in crisis. We're looking ahead and ways to get better. We're going to be in crisis someday. I'm not naive. We're the 10th largest city in the country. But the key is, at the time that you are in crisis, where you see other cities, is the fact that when you are in an issue with your community that you're in crisis, can you sit at a table together, and even though you have opposing views, talk things through and try to move forward? Because the community's not going away, and police departments aren't going away. We need to work together. And so I believe that we have built that rapport with our community, that if we are in crisis, we will be able to sit down and have conversations together to get through this. You know, daily I work on department morale, you know, improve the day-to-day, what we can control, simple things that we can control. I want to be upfront with the media. If I'm very open, I'm very honest. When it comes to in good times or bad times, I need to lead. Stand up to criticism when warranted. And there's been criticism, and we've had to stand up to it. But by God, I'm going to defend my men and women when they're unnecessarily attacked. It's a very difficult job. Your men and women are second to none, and they need someone to fight for them. We're not checking boxes here. As I said earlier, I'm never going to wear another patch on my arm. And I say that because what I do for this community is I like to think that we're trying to do things for the right reasons. I had a former supervisor that said to me, you want to leave a place better than you want. When you leave someplace, you want to leave it better than it was when you found it. And our former chief, Larry Escobar, did an amazing job at trying to stabilize this police department at some very crucial times. And the thing is, it's important for me to tell people that. Because as we go through the issues we're going through with our community and trying to make our community relationships stronger, especially with our communities of color, I don't want officers ever thinking, oh, the chief's doing that because he wants to get hired by the LAPD someday, or the chief's doing that because he's trying to impress some other mayor somewhere. That's not why we're doing it. I've already said it. I've said it publicly. This is probably the, umpteenth time I've said it in front of a crowd that you'll never see Eddie Garcia with another patch on his arm. I like to think that when I speak in front of groups, I speak with my passion, I speak with my heart. I simply couldn't do that anywhere else. And so it's important as we're moving forward in a lot of these things that we're doing, is that we're doing it for the right reasons. I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate that I work with some of the most amazing officers amongst the best in the country. And again, we're not human, and we make mistakes. My officers have sacrificed, and they've proven they'll lay down their lives for their community, the entire community, regardless who you are. One thing, Major City Chiefs was asking for a representative to sit on a DOJ-sponsored panel that involved officers that were involved in line of duty deaths. And I've had to give 2 flags away in 2 consecutive years. And that's the most gut-wrenching feeling in the world, is to get that call. And I got the call in 2015, and I got the call in 2016. And I can tell you, if anyone ever asks me what the roughest part about my job has been getting that call. And so when people attack my officers, I really take offense to that, because I know where their hearts are at. And I know what they've given for this city and for this community. So, with that, God bless you. God bless the San Jose PD. And with that, take some questions. Let me get a mic. Let's get a mic for you.
Oh,
Go ahead.
All right, who do we have first up?
This gentleman.
All right, right here. Here you go.
oh, there we go. We got a lot of money. Anyway, I was wondering, in the police department, I heard you say something about teenagers, but to try to get the kids when they're 10 or 11 years old, I was just thinking, if they do a recruiting, and you'd have to raise funds to do this, but get the kids when they're 10 or 11 and get them into a program, get them around the police officers, and just make them fall in love with it. And then when the gang opportunity comes up, especially when you got American blacks, I'm American black, and American Mexican, and different people, American Caucasians, everyone. That way we get the kids educated at a young age so they know how to say no. For example, my grandson's supposed to be here. He's 11 years young, and he used an excuse, but it don't matter. He got to do a 100-word essay about loyalty. You know what I mean? And if we can get the kids involved before they get up and be able to pull in these gangs and stuff like that, and they'll know right from wrong, I think that would be a good system if the police department could put something. And it's all about funding, so it had to be funded.
Well, one of the things that I will say is we're on the same page. We do have a police cadet program that we do have youth, and we want them to fall in love with law enforcement. Not at that young age for that. Is that Teen Kids program that I talked to you about earlier? That's a program that officers go out and to instruct kids for about 6 to 8 weeks on different issues. But what we have now on the table is a cadet program that we're having it paid. So our young cadets that are not old enough yet to be officers can enter in a cadet program, which normally would be volunteer, and actually giving them a job, making it a part-time job for them so they can come in and earn a wage, earn a living, and at the same time do what they want to do. And hopefully fall in love with this police department. So we're on the same page with that. Our youth are our future. We're certainly on the same page with that. We are constantly trying to find ways to do that.
All right, we have someone right here. Here you go.
Chief, it's nice to meet you. I bet that everybody in this room is absolutely pro-police and would put their life on the line for a policeman. I know that this room is made up of a lot of conservative people, and, you know, in general, we are very pro-police. So congratulations on all the things that you've done to help improve your source, your staff. But what I'm concerned about is two things. Number one, I was at the Trump rally, and I was let out into a group of people that I had been searched to see if I had anything on me, and I was let out into a group that had no search, had weapons on them and all sorts of stuff. And I watched our police officers, I believe at your direction, stand down. So I saw people hurt, I saw people punched and all that.
Let me just interrupt and comment.
Anyway.
Since there's a current lawsuit pending,
Yes.
it's tough for the chief to answer questions
Okay.
particular about that. That's why we mentioned it earlier.
Okay, so I just wanted to make the statement that concerned me about who you're going to protect. The people that need protection or the people that are violent. And the other side of that is, are you going to support the removal of sanctuary city for the city of San Jose? Or is the police force going to go against federal law and continue to harbor and not do what they're supposed to do with illegal aliens?
That's an easy question. No, I'm just kidding. Let me just say, you know what, the one thing that I can't say, I will tell you this, and I will say this, and then there was a lot of commotion, and trust me, I've felt most of it, and I'm proud of, I am the person who takes the arrows from my officers. I can tell you this with regards to the Trump issue, and this is the one thing I will say about it, is that I was not proud. None of us in this police department was proud what happened that day. We were not proud of what the city showed that day. I will tell you that the biggest pain that I felt through that is not only the victims to the lawlessness, but the pain I felt to have my officers take the brunt of an organization that didn't care. And that can't be further from the truth. I can say that without any fear or qualms about any pending law, but I can tell you that's not where my heart is, that's not where our officers' heart is, and I will tell you that's what pains me the most. With regards to the sanctuary city question, San Jose is not a sanctuary city. I've said that, we've said that, the media seems to continue to we abide by the federal statutes that are in the U.S. Code. We are not technically a sanctuary city. One thing I will tell you, having said that, however, it is not this police department's role to be the immigration police. Okay, it's not our role, it's not our responsibility. I will tell you that we want to protect our law-abiding, hard-working immigrants that are in this country. But I will also tell you that even in my immigrant communities that will let me have it, if they don't feel that the police department's paying attention, they don't want criminals living in their neighborhoods either. But I will tell you that this department's role, though I will say, and I understand sometimes this isn't popular, we're not ICE, we're not immigration, and that's not our role or responsibility, and it makes us less safe as a community, as a city. But again, to your point, again, we looked at our duty manual section, it's very clearly written, and we're not technically a sanctuary city, regardless what you do. Thank you for the question. I don't mind difficult questions, so thank you for the question.
All right, we have Larry.
Chief, California in its wisdom made possession of marijuana for recreational purposes legal. I'd like to ask what kind of problems or challenges is that creating for law enforcement? And then secondly, there's been a lot of talk about Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter also.
Amen.
How can we help in that particular effort?
Okay, great questions. You know, with the issue on the marijuana, you know, and I always bring this up in two ways. We haven't seen really truly what's occurred because it's still not, even though it passed law, the says until there's regulations put in place that it's not being moved, we're not moving forward on it. You know, I will tell you that that we haven't seen what that will cause. Obviously, we talk about the gateway drug and things of that nature with regards to our community. And so we're yet to see what the, what the issues will be. I mean, when we start the regulations, obviously it's not going to be, where you be able to smoke in public and et cetera, so it causes a nuisance to someone else or what have you. But at the same time, and I'll be frank with you, and I'll say this publicly. I mean, it isn't just the marijuana. I mean, there's, if you look at some of the propositions that have passed, have made it more difficult to enforce the laws, whether it be Prop 47, Prop 57. They'll certainly make it a little bit more difficult for us. And so, we work within those confines to try to do exactly what we can. But in the end, with the marijuana issue per se, we haven't really truly seen what the issue will be yet, because it hasn't, even though it passed, it hasn't really happened. With regards to your support of the men and women that wear this uniform, really it's exactly that. It's just keep continuing that support. I will tell you this, and the days, and it's interesting. I mean, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, they did a great job of, vilifying public safety with everything that was going on. And I will say today, I mean, there's probably not a time that, I know that whether I'm going out to get a cup of coffee or what have you, that someone just comes up and says, thank you. I mean, different things affect people differently with regards to, someone else may get told thank you, and it's like, okay, yeah, whatever. If you take your time to stop an officer and tell them, hey, I just want to thank you for your sacrifice. I want to thank you for what you do. I know I say that a lot, and some people may think, oh, whatever, that's not a big deal. It's a huge deal. I'll tell you this, I mean, for me as a chief, when I'm walking down the hall and one of my officers stops me and says, hey, chief, I just wanted to say thank you for standing up for us. They take 10 seconds to do that. That made my week. And so I know that if that makes my week, someone telling an officer, thank you for what you do and thank you for your sacrifice is a great start. And then standing up for the men and women in conversations and in different things if you truly believe it.